I guess it's a few things. And this is what I tell my clients. I think the first main thing is you have to find your why. Like this is your big reason for wanting to be plant-based or wanting to change your lifestyle. And it has to be something bigger than, oh, I want to lose weight or, oh, I want to look good. It has to be like your deep down reason for wanting to make a change. And for me, I want to live a long life. I want to have a family one day. I want to be a healthy mother to my children. I want to be around for my grandkids one day. Like living a long, healthy life is really important to me. And, why not start when I'm young?
Hey friends, it's Trent Lindsey, and you are listening to episode 4 of the Plant-Based Diet Benefits Podcast. I'm excited to have Danielle Keith on the show today. She is trained as a holistic health coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which is the world's largest nutrition school. She has a passion for health and helping her clients achieve the best health that they can have. She is also super excited to share her journey to go plant-based with us. And without further ado, let's start the show. So now we have Danielle Keith with CodeGreenWellness.com on the line. Danielle, thank you very much for joining the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. And just to give my listeners a little bit of background about yourself, if you wouldn't mind, just tell me a little bit about yourself, family, where you live, things like that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I grew up in Michigan, in Detroit. It's like 30 minutes outside Detroit in Farmington Hills. Grew up in a really nice Jewish family. And I lived in Michigan all my life. And I was actually born in New Jersey, but I grew up primarily in Michigan. I went to Michigan State University for college. I have a background in psychology and health promotion. And I had to escape the cold. I couldn't do another winter. So I packed everything up and I moved to Florida with my boyfriend of 6 years. We were long distance actually for 5 years of our relationship. So the two of us are now in Florida together. And I recently was certified as a holistic health coach. So since I've been down here, I've just been growing my business and loving life in the sunshine.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started the show, and I completely agree with living a life in the sunshine. I'm from Arizona, so we get plenty of sun, so I'm right there with you. I was raised here, so I've never really experienced the cold besides when I went to college. I went to college up in Northern Arizona, Northern Arizona University, and a lot of people don't realize this, but we do get snow in Arizona, just on the northern parts. And I enjoyed the school, but not so much the snow days that we had up there. So I don't blame you for
my God,
warmth.
It's brutal. I remember there was one day I walked outside. It was like -10 and I walked right back inside and didn't go to class that day. It was not for me.
Yeah.
To say the least.
One of my fondest, I guess you could say fondest memories of the cold. It was pretty much the coldest day I experienced the whole time I was at school there. And it wasn't really negative. It wasn't -10. I think it got down to 2 or 3 degrees. And I would have done that, just decided not to go to class. But it was actually the end of the semester where we had this finals group presentation. And it was at 7:30 in the morning too. It was really early. So there was no getting around it. I had to be out there in the cold.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I got a lot of hate for moving to Florida. People didn't understand why I was coming here. And, they'd ask, oh, why are you going there? It's so hot. But you know what? I would rather be in the warmer weather than be freezing and shoveling my driveway and scraping ice off my car and worrying about the roads being in bad conditions. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel you.
Yeah. So What's it like growing up in Michigan? I mean, in terms of, you mentioned you grew up in a Jewish family. So can you share a little bit about, the type of foods that you were raised on? I'm assuming that you have not been plant-based your whole life.
Yeah, no, I have not been plant-based my whole life. I think my family um, was healthier than most at the time. I like being healthy and, eating vegan. It's like a totally new thing. So, like being healthy wasn't very trendy when I was growing up, like 15, 20 years ago. So, my mom, she cooked every single night. We always had dinner as a family. There was always a salad at dinner, some kind of meat, maybe chicken, maybe, like a fish of some kind. But, she'd do like the shake and bake mixes, and we'd have Kraft mac and cheese, your typical like American foods. We'd have like, this awful combination of like hot dogs cut up in mac and cheese.
Oh, yes.
I don't know why that.
No, I remember that well.
Oh, yeah. I'm embarrassed to say that I've eaten that before. But, she never made anything fried. So I guess it was healthier in that respect. We rarely went out for fast food, but we were definitely not anywhere close to vegan. There was a lot of dairy in the house, cheese on everything. Mexican night, we'd pile on the shredded cheese. I remember just like eating cheese by the handful. We had, cow's milk in the house for cereal. And I don't know, we'd have like cheesy toast in the morning, cheesy eggs. So definitely more like dairy heavy than meat. So, I mean, definitely a little bit healthier than most families, but still, like there were a lot of animal products. And my school lunches, we'd have typical American snacks like Cheez-Its and Goldfish, and pretzels, that kind of thing. And lunch could be like a turkey and cheese sandwich, something like that. But I did go to a Jewish school growing up, so we had to follow kosher rules. And for those not familiar with kosher rules, like you can't mix meat and dairy, and you can't have like pork products or shellfish. So we weren't allowed to bring any of that to school, and we weren't allowed to bring meat to school at all. It was a completely like everything had to be dairy or parv meaning like no dairy at all or meat. So naturally school lunches would be like a little more dairy heavy, yogurt, cheese sticks, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not too, like different than a lot of Americans out there. I think many people probably have a little bit more fast food in their diet than you did growing up. So that's definitely good. I know for my family growing up, we would order in a lot just because we're so busy with sports and all kinds of things going on. And, but I grew up in a family where we had a lot of chicken. So chicken was like very, very popular for me. My dad's family has historically worked in the like chicken industry, selling poultry to restaurants and grocery stores and things like that. So chicken was always in abundance growing up. So naturally, if we ever ordered in, it was like from the chicken places like KFC and things like that.
I was going to say winner, chicken dinner.
Yep, exactly. So at some point you made that, kind of conscious choice, I assume, to switch to a plant-based diet. About how old were you when you did that?
Well, actually going back a little, starting in high school, I decided to become vegetarian. I watched this random YouTube video about like the horrors of animal agriculture and the cruelty of, slaughterhouses and what goes on behind closed doors. And I was horrified, and I was like, okay, I'm not eating meat again. But I still didn't really make the connection about dairy or eggs or any other animal products. So for 2 years in high school, I guess I was pescatarian. I ate fish, but I wasn't eating meat of any kind, no chicken, no red meat, any of that. But I still had never even heard of a plant-based diet, even when I was vegetarian. The thought never existed in my mind that I could live a life without animal products. So I wasn't healthy by any means. I mean, you can be vegetarian and be eating, mac and cheese and pizza and, all kinds of unhealthy things. And then I started, I started dating my boyfriend, and I don't know, we would just like go out together and have fun, and we'd, go out to parties. And then after we'd go out to a restaurant, and I remember there was this one time we ordered, or he ordered chicken tenders, and I was like, that looks so good. I have to have one. So after 2 years of not eating meat, I ate a chicken tender, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm done with this vegetarian thing. I'm going to whatever. I'll just go back to eating meat. So that was I'm trying to think, maybe my freshman year of college or maybe senior year of high school. I started eating meat again. And then my freshman year of high school is kind of where my whole story begins. I was, eating late night food. You'd go out and then come home and you'd have pizza and Easy Mac and candy and all that junk. And then Michigan State, they actually have really nice dining halls, but none of it is particularly healthy. They had it was food court style, and then you could go in with your card, and it was unlimited, so you could go in and pretty much get whatever you wanted in unlimited amounts. And this was such a fun idea to me. They had a pasta bar, and I would get fettuccine Alfredo with crab inside. I don't know, it sounds gross talking about it, but I'd have frozen yogurt 3 times a day. They had unlimited baked goods like cookies and cake. And I mean, I was loving it, and I was eating all of it. And I noticed I was slowly starting to gain weight, and I noticed that after every meal, I would have a stomach ache. And it just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I am sick of not feeling well after every time I eat. I just feel so gross and disgusting. And, eating all of that unlimited food in the dining hall and, eating late night food that got old really quickly. And I could see where I would end up in the future if I had kept eating like that. And I'm someone, I like to feel good. I'm really not into drinking alcohol or doing drugs or doing any of that. I like to feel good. I like to feel like myself. I like to have a lot of energy. And I just really noticed that the food I was eating was weighing me down, both inside and on the outside. And I was like, I have to make a change. And I didn't go plant-based right away. It was a very gradual change. I first started off with saying, okay, I'm going to be done with the desserts in the dining hall. No more sweets, no more froyo 3 times a day, no more, fresh baked cookies out of the oven. They had this one little stand in the dining hall where you could get an ice cream cookie sandwich, and you could pick out the kinds of cookies you wanted. You could pick out the ice cream. I mean, it was so good, but
I bet it's tempting, especially when you have unlimited food available to you. That's got to be very tempting, especially when there's so many sweets and things like that around.
Yeah, it was. And it was it was good too. MSU is known for their ice cream store. I'm pretty sure their ice cream has the highest fat and highest sugar content out of any ice cream in the country. It's I think it's called the MSU dairy store. But yeah, that had to end. So that was the first thing that I cut out. I was like, okay, no more desserts. And then, started feeling a little bit better. I was like, okay, if I can do that, like, let's try another thing. So I was like, okay, what is giving me these stomach aches after I'm eating? And I kind of put two and two together that it was all the dairy because, again, I was eating, the fettuccine Alfredo from the pasta bar and the pizza from the make your own pizza line. So I was like, okay, no more dairy. And I got rid of that. And then I was still eating meat at this point, but I stopped eating meat in the dining hall. I was like, okay, I'm going to eat meat only if I know where it comes from. So like if my mom bought it or, my boyfriend's mom, I was like, okay, like they bought it from a grocery store. Like who knows what mystery meat they're using in the dining hall. I was like, okay, I'm going to be done with meat in the dining hall. But meanwhile, like I was cutting things out. So this forced me to get creative. So I was steaming sweet potatoes in the microwave in my dorm. I was taking veggies from the salad bar and, I was steaming those in the microwave, or I just, use the salad bar and make a huge bowl of salad. They had chickpeas and they had like all kinds of legumes I could put on my salad. They had, fresh fruit cut up in the dining hall. They had pineapple and cantaloupe, and I would bring in my own. I don't know if I was allowed to do this, but I brought in my own containers and I'd fill them up with pineapple and cantaloupe and then bring them back to my dorm and keep it in my mini fridge. I would ask for extra bananas and oranges and apples, and I kept a huge bowl of fruit in my room so I could just, take it to class, eat it when I needed a snack. And then, maybe I'd have eggs every once in a while, maybe a little fish, a little salmon. But I started, reading and researching online, like the best diet, the healthiest way to live. And I was watching all of these, YouTube videos of people who were loving a plant-based diet. And I'd watch like the what I eat in a day videos of people who are vegan. And, it looked realistic and it looked like something that I could do. And I was never like a huge fan of meat. So that was easy for me. I don't really care about it. It was more like the cheese and I think the dairy, that's like a big thing for people. It's like the last thing people want to give up is like no more cheese. I'm sure you've experienced that too.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first switched over to a plant-based diet, and my wife can attest to this, I went on like this 2 or 3 month like mission to try to make my own homemade vegan cheese and have it taste just as good as cow's milk cheese. And I think
how'd it go?
not very well. But I think, it's one of those things. It's about like expectations, and knowing that things like it's going to be different. And I also think, cheese has a very addictive quality. And I think that's been kind of well documented too. And so I think after it was out of my system for an extended period of time, like the desire for it kind of just faded away. Because that was the biggest concern of mine, and just like so many other people, was going to be missing cheese. But after a while, it just kind of goes away, and I don't even think about it now.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, I'm sure the same for you. Like after doing all kinds of research and seeing all these things online, I was like very heavily leaning towards being plant-based, but I was like, it's too hard in a dorm. I didn't have a kitchen. I didn't have a huge fridge where I could keep produce. I had a little baby mini fridge. So I was like, okay, next year when I'm in an apartment, I'll go plant-based. And I remember one night I was talking to my friend, and she was plant-based already at the time. She was like, why don't you just do it? You should just go for it. No excuses if it's something that you want. And if, you think that's going to be best for you, you should just go for it. And I remember at the time, the last thing I was eating that wasn't 100% plant-based, I think it was like a little salmon and maybe, those like dark chocolate covered, maybe they're like pomegranate seeds from Costco. They come in a big bag. whatever. They're addictive. They're so good. I was eating so many of those in college, but they had dairy in them. And that night I threw them away, and that was it. From that day on, I was like, I'm doing this, and I'm so happy that I didn't wait until I had an apartment, because you can always find an excuse not to do something. So you just, it taught me a lot about myself, and, where there's a will, there's a way. It's really true. If you want something badly enough, you can make it happen. And again, like, I had to get creative. I made it work for myself.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, one of the questions that I am most intrigued when I meet other people who are eating a plant-based diet is, and I think this is one of the big concerns about people switching to a plant-based diet, is like the societal kind of pressures. What's my family going to think? What's my friends going to think? Like, are they going to, question everything about the choices I'm making? So considering you were in college, right? How did you cope with kind of transitioning over to a plant-based diet when you're out with friends and in those more social settings?
Yeah. It definitely was a learning curve. I mean, I wasn't an expert right off the bat. It just kind of took some figuring out. I think one of the biggest things is like finding, if you are going out with friends, finding either vegan restaurants that your friends are willing to go to, or finding places that have vegan options, or going to restaurants where for a fact that they're always going to have something vegan. So for me, on Michigan State's campus, there are a ton of sushi places, and you can always get a cucumber avocado roll. Like, I like any sushi place you go to, you're going to be able to get that. So if my friends wanted to go out to dinner, we'd go to sushi, and I could get my little veggie rolls, and I'd get edamame, and maybe like a salad with ginger dressing. But I really learned to make socializing more about being with people and enjoying your company around you rather than the food, because I think we tend to make social situations about the food and not so much being social and being around people. Like now, I mean, I said I'm a health coach, and a lot of the clients that I'm working with, especially around holiday time, people were very worried about like what they were going to do for Christmas and, their family gathering, and, what they were going to eat, because they're so used to eating like traditional, ham and whatever, all that stuff. And, I really had them focus on being with the people that they loved and focusing on making memories rather than focusing so much on the food, and, bringing some of their own healthy dishes to share with the family, but not making that the total focus. So I definitely applied that when I was in college, just focusing more on the experience than the food. Or, before I go out, I'd make sure I ate my own dinner, before, meeting up with my friends or doing that. But I think also being confident about it and having answers to people's questions, because I think I'm sure you've experienced this. It's people have a curiosity about what you're doing, and if you're able to speak confidently about it and explain yourself, then people are much more willing to accept it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, especially when you're first starting out too, I know one of the biggest pieces of advice that I was given was just to not completely deflect what you're doing, but just say, hey, I learned about this plant-based diet and thought I'd go ahead and give it a try for a little while and see how it works out for me. So far it's working out.
Right.
Who knows if I'll do it forever, but so far it's working out. And like, if you aren't comfortable and ready to answer some of those like tougher questions that some people will ask, then like that's kind of a good way to change the subject or deflect a little bit until you are able to do some research and feel more confident about answering some of their questions too.
Totally. And I'm sure you get the question like, oh, where do you get your protein? Or, that kind of thing about like vitamins and nutrients. But just being able to answer those questions is huge, because when I can say, oh, you can get your protein from beans and tempeh and tofu and nuts and seeds and greens. People are like, oh, okay. And, they're done asking you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you come across as confident and knowledgeable on the subject too, that always helps. I know for me,
for sure,
I'm a big learner. I love learning, just on many different topics. But when I transitioned into a plant-based diet, I actually found two doctors out there, Doctors Rick and Karen Dina, who offer a course. It's called Mastering Raw Food Nutrition. Mm-hmm. And after you come out of it, you're a certified Mastering Raw Food Nutrition educator is what the title is that you get. But it's like a year-long program with like over 100 hours solely on plant-based, mainly raw food nutrition, which mm-hmm. helped me out greatly in terms of understanding, where we're getting all of our nutrients from and the benefits of a plant-based diet. A lot of that is what I'll be sharing on this podcast in the future as well. So it's that confidence that you get really helps, and just also understanding for your own good, where you're getting your protein from, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And, knowledge is power. So the more you know and the more information you can give people, you just create that ripple effect that will help to change the world, and we'll try to, get the mission out that we're both trying to achieve.
Absolutely. So you've been chatting quite a bit about, like the type of food that you had in college and things like that. How does that compare to what you eat now?
To what I eat now?
Is it a whole lot different, or do you kind of consume a lot of the same things? I don't believe you're in college anymore. Is that correct?
No, I'm
yeah, that's what I thought. So now that you have a full fridge, and do you incorporate more produce, or what's the difference?
Yeah, so after my freshman year of college, that's when I was in a dorm, but then I was in an apartment, so I was able to have my own my own kitchen, and I could cook for myself. And my senior year of college, I lived at home, so I was able to cook too. But no, for the past 4 years, I've been completely whole foods plant-based. So, eating a ton of fruits, veggies, beans, nuts and seeds, potatoes, whole grains, quinoa, brown rice. I really try to not have added sugar during the day. I try not to cook with a lot of oil. Sometimes, if you go out to a restaurant and, the only plant-based option has oil, I eat that. I'm not like totally 100% strict on that. But, at home, I have smoothies for breakfast. It's hot in Florida, so that's always what sounds good to me. Or I'll do fruit. I do a lot of like green juices. Lunch, I'll do like a quinoa salad, like quinoa, chickpeas, spinach, some kind of yummy homemade dressing. I love like sprouted bread with avocado on it. So just like really simple. I don't have time to make like complicated recipes, so the easier the better. For dinner, I'll do like vegan burrito bowls or some kind of pasta dish, or even just like simple like roasted sweet potatoes with like some grilled tempeh and a salad. So I think that's another thing too, is like it really doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for me personally, I have 3 kids, 4th on the way, like I mentioned before we started recording the show. And a lot of my food kind of has to be tailored to also be kid friendly, which makes it a little bit more difficult at times. But I know I've been seeing the food that you post out on your website, and through some of the Facebook groups that we both belong to. And every single time I see one of your pictures, I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so amazing. But I think I'd have to make it like when my kids aren't around, kind of thing. A lot of the stuff, we're trying to introduce them to a lot of different types of cuisines and and things like that. But, sometimes kids, like, they don't like their food mixed together. Like something as little as,
Yeah.
common as that, they just don't want it all mixed together. So like you mentioned burrito bowls, like we do that quite a bit here as well. But, it'll be a burrito bowl for my wife and I, but for the kids, it's like, well, you got some like rice here, and then separate from that, you have some beans, and then here's some spinach, and here's some corn, or here's, whatever else we're having inside the burrito bowl. Like, and they'll eat it separate. But once you go mixing everything together, then it's
right.
It's not as appetizing to them.
Yeah, well, at least they're willing to try and to eat what you guys are eating.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. I like I mentioned, I absolutely love the food that you post online. I figured it's obviously what you eat every day, which is great. So obviously this show is about the benefits of a plant-based diet, right? So you mentioned a little bit earlier about how you were having, like your stomach would bother you and things like that when you're not eating a plant-based diet. Is that one of the key benefits that you've experienced on a plant-based diet, or is there more that you can share there?
Yeah. So starting in high school, I started to get really bad chronic chest pain. I could be walking around a mall, I could be standing in line at the grocery store, and I'd feel this like horrible pain. I guess like kind of by my sternum, and my chest. And like if I took an inhale, it would just hurt really badly. And this went on for a few years, and it got really bad. I took a trip with my school, my senior year of high school. We went to Israel and we went to Poland, and I have never experienced such bad chest pain. I mean, looking back, we were eating on this trip, they were giving us like white bread sandwiches with deli meat on them. So keep that in mind. It'll tie in. But I had been having this chest pain, and I went to numerous doctors, like a gastro and, my regular doctor. And, they didn't really have an answer for me. They just wanted to give me like an antacid kind of pill and, send me on my way. No one ever said anything to me about, oh, Danielle, maybe it's something that's in your diet that you need to change, or, maybe it's this, maybe it's the dairy. Like no one thought or knew even to say that to me. And of course, I had no idea at the time that it could be something I was eating. So I think they called the chest pain costochondritis, which I now know is like inflammation in your body. But, at the time I had no idea. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have awful chest pain the rest of my life. And then freshman year of college, when I went plant-based, I had been plant-based for maybe like 2 months. And then it occurred to me, I was like, I haven't had chest pain for 2 months ever since going plant-based. And I was like, oh, maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's just, who knows? But then more time went by and the chest pain never came back. So what I now know is that I have so much inflammation in my body from, it was probably all the dairy and meat I was eating, probably more from the dairy, though. I was eating a lot of dairy. And I haven't had the chest pain since. So I think that's probably the biggest benefit. I lost about 20 pounds. I was never like overweight. Like if you looked at me, I didn't look like I had to lose weight, but I always tell people my body found my balance. When I went plant-based, my body just naturally kind of found its happy place. And yeah, it's about like maybe like 20 pounds. So that's huge. And I had really, really bad acne in high school, and that's, gone away. It was like really bad, like hormonal, like painful acne. It wasn't, like I still get like a pimple here and there and, deal with that, but it's not anywhere what it used to be. And of course, my dermatologist, who I would see all the time, never thought to tell me anything about my diet. It was just, another cream, another prescription. So, I mean, benefits all around. And I'm sure you feel the same way, but I'm just like happier. I feel so great. It's fun living this lifestyle. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's like fun trying new recipes and trying new foods that you wouldn't have tried before. It's like an adventure.
Absolutely. I absolutely enjoy cooking in the kitchen and trying out new recipes. I have a whole collection of, vegan or plant-based cookbooks, and for a really long time there, we're, just with our like weekly meal planning, because I think that's one of the things that's important to do is, to plan out your meals and make sure you always have stuff available at home to cook. But we would, pick items out of there, and then eventually you kind of find your favorites and you have your go-tos.
Yeah, definitely.
So is there any like big piece of advice that you'd like to offer to the listeners when it comes to transitioning to a plant-based diet? I mean, some people who are listening may already be on a plant-based diet and just wanting to learn more. But if you have somebody out there in mind that, isn't on a plant-based diet and you want to offer them some piece of advice, what would you give to them?
I guess it's a few things. And this is what I tell my clients. I think the first main thing is you have to find your why. Like this is your big reason for wanting to be plant-based or wanting to change your lifestyle. And it has to be something bigger than, oh, I want to lose weight, or, oh, I want to look good. It has to be like your deep down reason for wanting to make a change. And for me, I want to live a long life. I want to have a family one day. I want to be a healthy mother to my children. I want to be around for my grandkids one day. Like living a long, healthy life is really important to me. And, why not start when I'm young? So that's like my big motivator every single day. So that's like the first step, is really finding your why. And I think it helps to like originally to put your why in a physical space. So writing it down, writing it in a journal, writing it down and framing it, putting it on your fridge, putting it in your office, just as that, daily reminder. And, it's one thing to have a goal, but to actually like write it down and put that goal in a physical space, like that can be really powerful. So I think that would be number one. And then two would be to set yourself up for success in any way that you can. So, purging the junk out of your house, cleaning out your pantry, cleaning out your fridge, getting rid of anything that isn't going to support you in your health journey. Because if you surround yourself with bad food, you're going to eat bad food. But if you're buying healthy groceries, buying plant-based groceries and filling your home with them, then that's what you're going to eat. Those are your options. I know if I buy vegan ice cream and put it in my kitchen, I'm going to eat it. So, that goes the same for anything else. So setting yourself up for success and making sure that your environment directly supports your goals and your journey. That one's really big. I think that's probably the most important.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And it's funny that you mentioned the vegan ice cream as well, because, we're expecting another kiddo. And just because you eat a plant-based diet doesn't mean that you crave some ice cream if you're pregnant. So we keep some vegan ice cream at home as well. And, of course I have to join in with my wife there. That's our guilty pleasure, so to speak, after the kids go to bed, being able to enjoy like an ice cream bar or something like that. You don't have to partake in that, but if you are on a weight loss journey and stuff like that, maybe you have to be a little bit more mindful of it. But if you've, like you mentioned earlier, your body kind of found its balance where it needs to be, once you kind of get to that point, you can incorporate some of those things back into your diet, I think. At least that's my perspective.
Totally. What's your favorite vegan ice cream?
Oh geez, what's the brand? So we like the bars because it just makes it easier, so that way you don't have to scoop it out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny you say that because there's actually a wrapper right in front of me. So delicious that
Oh
brand.
yeah. Oh yeah, those are good.
They have one that's like a caramel flavored with vanilla like inside and just chocolate on the outside that we really like. And then there's one that has like some nuts mixed into the chocolate on the outside. So that kind of brings me back to my childhood a little bit. You know, like growing up, we would go to Dairy Queen quite a bit. Something that, especially once like high school age, once I started driving and stuff like that, my parents would like send me over to Dairy Queen, right? And I can't remember if this is the right name of it, but they were called like dilly bars, I think is what they were called. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, we used to love Dairy Queen. Yeah, but you know, luckily there are, like, if you do want a treat, there are so many plant-based vegan ice creams out there. Have you tried? There's this one called Not a Moo. So good. I don't know if you have that.
I think I've tried that one once. I can't. It's a little bit harder to find, I think, in my grocery stores. But
well, if you see the mint chocolate chip Not a Moo, you got to try that one out.
All right. Well, my wife will be very glad of the recommendation. I'll have to go take a look. So obviously you spend quite a bit of time in the kitchen, just as evidenced by your blog, right? You share a lot of recipes and things like that. And I think that could be one of the more difficult things when you're switching over to a plant-based diet is naturally, I think you spend more time in the kitchen cooking. So what's one thing that you can like kind of give to our listeners as a takeaway as like one of the biggest time saving or most used appliances that you have in your kitchen that just really, you know, you couldn't live without?
I think my Vitamix would have to come in first place. I use it multiple times a day, every single day. You know, I start with my smoothie and then maybe for lunch, I'll make a dressing in it. I'll make soups in it, sauces. I'll make like a vegan, like mac and cheese in there. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but a good tip is to get a refurbished one. I think they normally go for like $500, but I got a refurbished one for $240. So that's a really good tip if you're going to get one. And I mean, it's like completely brand new. So
yeah, Vitamix does a good job.
One thing. Yeah. So if you had to invest in something, I just think of it. I mean, it's the best blender ever. It gets everything totally smooth. And I think it's key to getting like certain textures. Like other blenders just really don't do the same. Like a lot of the recipes that you'll find online, it's like vegan cheeses and sauces and, you know, whatever it is. And you need that like completely smooth consistency. Otherwise it's just like not going to work and it gets the job done. Couldn't live without it.
Yeah. And I'll echo those same comments. I couldn't live without my Vitamix either. And I've had other brands. Yeah. I had tried out a TriBest blender at one point. I was sold because I had like this vacuum technology, you know, where you can suck the air out of it and things like that. And I actually gave away, or actually I sold it. Sorry, I sold my Vitamix to a good friend of mine who I wanted to, you know, kind of incorporate more plants into their diet. I was like, you know, maybe this will help kickstart that for them. And then I continued with my TriBest blender, and it just didn't live up to my expectations, and it broke a few times. So we were constantly sending it back and forth with TriBest, and eventually I just gave up and went out and bought myself another Vitamix.
Yeah, it's so worth it.
All right, so can you tell us a little bit more about Code Green Wellness? And obviously your website is www.codegreenwellness.com. But if you can share a little bit about more how you support the community and what your services are, I think it'd be great for our listeners to learn a little bit more about that side of you and your business.
Yeah, so I'm a holistic health coach, which means that I'm taking a holistic approach to all of my clients' wellness. So food isn't the only thing that feeds us. It's so much more than that. It's our spirituality, how much exercise we're getting, the relationships we have, you know, our financial situations. Like so many different factors contribute to our overall wellness. So I'm coming from that perspective when I'm working with a client. A lot of people ask me what sets you apart from maybe a dietitian or some other health professional. I think that is one of the biggest things, because, you could be eating kale, but if you're in an abusive relationship, at the end of the day, like, you need to, take care of that relationship. Like, that's going to come first. And a lot of the time, if you have an imbalance in some other aspect of your life, then what you're eating is also going to be out of balance. For example, if you're stressed out at work, you might go home and binge eat because, you're taking it out on food. Or if you had a really sad day, or if you're in some kind of, fight with your friend, that's going to show up in your eating patterns. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think they'll resonate with a lot of people. And taking that holistic approach is really important. So you do some health coaching, obviously. I know I took a look at your website before, so you have a couple different programs that you could offer, but I believe you offer like a free consultation of some sort for people who are interested in having you as a health coach, correct?
Yep. So I have a couple different options. I have all kinds of different programs. If you don't want to commit to a program, I have individual sessions. But I do have a complimentary free initial consultation, so that, you can see if working with a health coach will be right for you. And we go over, your health history and your background. And, we see if it would be beneficial for us to work together. And, I can see if I can help you accomplish your health goals. Working with a health coach, it's a little bit more involved than maybe your average health professional. So not only do I have one-on-one sessions with my clients, but they have unlimited support from me. So if a client needs to call me for any reason, call me, text me, email me. They have 24/7 access to my personal phone number. So, I have people texting me 5 times a day. I have people texting me 40 times a day. But I think that's really major for someone in their health journey, is just to have that guidance and that support, and to have someone who's with them along the way and guiding them. So I could get a text that's like, help, I'm at a restaurant. Can I send you the menu and you can help me decide what to order? It could be, a text at night. I'm craving candy and junk food. What do I do? Someone could just want to talk. Or if you're at the grocery store and want to know the healthiest brand of veggie burgers to buy, the healthiest brand of bread to buy, like, you can shoot me a text. So I think I really see my clients being successful because they are able to ask me questions and they have that direct line to me all the time. And I mean, just the success that I have seen my clients have just from even like a short period of time on a plant-based diet is insane. I mean, I've now been doing this for 4 years, and I love the benefits, and I couldn't see myself living another lifestyle. So when I have a client, after 2 weeks, they don't have any more chronic pain. Their headaches are gone. Their energy's up. They're sleeping better. They've already lost a few pounds. It's so rewarding for me to see, and it's so amazing. Some people get frustrated, like, oh, I only lost like 3 pounds in 2 weeks, but I'm like, don't worry, like, trust the process. I think a lot of us are like impatient when it comes to losing weight and getting healthy, but I remind everyone it's a journey and we're all on our health journey. But the results that I've seen from my clients is amazing. I have this one woman who, she suffered from really, really horrible chronic pain for years. And after like a month on a plant-based diet and, following my program and all my guidelines. She is back at the gym and working out for the first time in years. She doesn't have any more pain. She has arthritis, and she said her pain is now like 90% gone. So it's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure they greatly appreciate the work that you do. And I think that's great. So I wish you the best of luck on your, to continue to grow that successful health coaching business. If anybody's interested, I'm going to be providing some links in the show notes as well. But of course, you can just head over straight to the website to www.codegreenwellness.com. And I believe you're on like Instagram and other platforms like that as well, correct?
Yeah. My Instagram is Code Green Wellness, just like my website. So, and I'm on Facebook too, Code Green Wellness.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Danielle. I really appreciate you joining me for the show.
Thank you so much.
And there you have it, folks. Thank you very much for listening in on episode 4 of the Plant-Based Diet Benefits Podcast with Danielle Keith. It was an absolute pleasure having her on the show. And please do check out our show notes at www.plantbaseddietbenefits.com/4. There you can reference some of the links to Danielle's sites, such as codegreenwellness.com, as well as her Facebook page and Instagram page as well. You could also take a look at the transcript of the show if you'd like to be able to read along with us. Thank you very much for your time today, and we will see you next time.